over, but Jaws has still continued on for the last, 50 years. Secondly, I will be providing the synopsis and plot of the movies for those who may not like surprises or just want to listen to know what the movies are about. There will be a slide letting you know when we're coming up on it, and I'll let you know where it's safe to click on to avoid spoilers. Also, while many of the movies are streamable, I'm not going to really provide the info on where you can watch them, because it varies based on where you live, and streaming services suck. I mean, seriously, there's so many of them now, you're gonna be paying out the butts if you don't want ads. But I like to use ads as bathroom breaks, but I mean, I'm rambling now. Finally, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why the movie stands out, and why I think you'll like it. So, 25 on our list is No One Will Save You. No One Will Save You is a 2023 sci-fi horror thriller directed by Brian Duffield and produced by 20th Century Studios and Star Thrower Entertainment. Centering around Bryn Adams, a young woman living in isolation in a small rural town, the film blends psychological and extraterrestrial horror, focusing on Bryn's increasingly terrifying encounters with alien beings. I'm going to go more in depth and go over the plot of the movie now, so if you'd like to skip, you'll know where to skip to in 3, 2, 1. The story begins by introducing Bryn as a recluse who spends her days alone in a quiet, remote house, avoiding contact with the outside world. She leads a solitary life, absorbed in her hobbies like writing letters, making small crafts, and maintaining her home. The early scenes give subtle hints that Bryn is deeply troubled, haunted by a tragic past which has caused her to withdraw from society. As the plot unravels, it's revealed that Bryn is grieving the death of her best friend, Maud, and the town holds her responsible for Maud's untimely demise, though the exact circumstances aren't immediately clear. One night, Bryn's quiet existence is shattered when she hears strange noises coming from inside her home. Investigating, she discovers that an alien being has broken in. The creature is tall, lanky, and insect-like, with grotesque limbs and advanced abilities including telekinesis. The alien begins to stalk Bryn throughout the house, and she narrowly escapes its attempts to kill or abduct her. What follows is a nightmarish, tense battle for survival as Bryn must face off against the increasingly aggressive extraterrestrial invaders. The film largely takes place within her home and the surrounding woods, creating a claustrophobic and tense atmosphere. The alien's ability to manipulate objects telepathically adds an extra layer of danger, as they aren't just physically imposing, but can control their environment and those in it. Bryn fights back resourcefully, setting up traps and defending herself with whatever tools she can find. But it becomes clear that the aliens aren't just random intruders. There's an unsettling purpose behind their presence, and they seem to be observing and studying her as much as attacking. The film blends action with horror as Bryn faces multiple alien encounters, and her house is turned into a battleground for her survival. As the night progresses, Bryn's internal struggles also come to the forefront. The film subtly weaves in flashbacks, revealing her traumatic past and the true story behind her friend Maud's death. Bryn had accidentally killed Maud during a childhood argument, and though it was unintentional, the guilt and ostracism from the community have weighed heavily on her ever since. This adds a layer of emotional complexity to her fight against the aliens, as Bryn's isolation is not just physical, but deeply psychological. The climax of the film takes a surreal and disturbing turn when Bryn is finally abducted by the aliens. Instead of a traditional final confrontation, Bryn is subjected to a series of bizarre, dreamlike experiences aboard the alien ship. She's made to relive her trauma, and it's implied that the aliens are either manipulating her memories or using them as part of their experiments on her mind. In these sequences, Bryn's grief, guilt, and desire for redemption are symbolically intertwined with the aliens' invasive presence. In the film's ambiguous and haunting conclusion, Bryn manages to escape the alien ship and return to Earth, but the final moments suggest that she has been permanently altered by her experience. The aliens seem to have left their mark on her, not only physically, but emotionally, as she walks back to her isolated life, forever changed by the ordeal. And with that, the film ends. Boop, take me to your leader. I'm just kidding, it's just me, sillies. To those who stayed, I hope you enjoyed what you heard enough to give it a watch. And for those who skipped, why did you skip it? It's such a great alien movie. And I'm sure you're gonna like it. But I bet you're still wondering, why did it make it onto the list? What makes No One Will Save You stand out? For one, it's so crazy how they made an entire movie with minimal dialogue but maximum visual storytelling. It's probably one of the most unique aspects of No One Will Save You. Bryn is a largely silent protagonist, and much of the story is told through her actions, facial expressions, and the physical environment around her. This places a heavy emphasis on visual storytelling, relying on atmosphere, body language, and the power of silence to build tension. The lack of dialogue creates a sense of isolation and heightens the tension, making the alien encounters feel even more personal and terrifying. Alien invasion as psychological horror. While many alien invasion films focus on global-scale destruction or action-packed battles, No One Will Save You takes a more intimate approach, blending sci-fi with psychological horror. The film uses the extraterrestrial threat as a metaphor for Bryn's internal demons, her guilt, trauma, and loneliness. The aliens seem less interested in conquering Earth than in tormenting Bryn, creating a horror experience that is both external, the physical alien attack, and internal, her emotional unraveling. Resourceful protagonist. Bryn is a well-crafted character who defies typical horror tropes. Unlike many horror protagonists who are caught unprepared, Bryn proves to be a real Macaulay Culkin, as she is resourceful and proactive. Despite being isolated and emotionally damaged, she fights back against the aliens with intelligence and creativity, using the tools that are at her disposal to survive. Her emotional arc is just as compelling as the physical fight for survival, as she faces not only the aliens, but her own personal demons. Unique creature design and abilities. The aliens in No One Will Save You stand out from typical sci-fi fare. Their unsettling design, tall insect-like creatures with eerie movements, adds to their menace, but it's their telekinetic abilities that make them particularly terrifying. The film plays with the idea of control, both mental and physical, as the aliens can manipulate objects from a distance and seem to probe into Bryn's mind and memories. This gives the aliens a surreal, otherworldly power that enhances the horror. Atmosphere and tension. Director Brian Duffield creates a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere that keeps the audience on edge throughout the film. The isolated setting of Bryn's rural home, combined with the sparse use of music and sound, builds an oppressive sense of dread. The film uses long, unbroken takes and minimalist lighting to heighten the tension, allowing the horror to unfold slowly and methodically. The quiet moments, punctuated by sudden, violent alien encounters, makes the scares more impactful. Emotional depth and themes of guilt and redemption. At its core, No One Will Save You is not just about surviving an alien invasion. It's a story about guilt, forgiveness, and emotional survival. Bryn's struggle against the aliens mirrors her internal struggle to forgive herself for her past mistakes. The film explores themes of isolation, trauma, and redemption in a way that elevates it beyond a typical horror thriller. The aliens are both literal and symbolic enemies, representing Bryn's inability to escape her past. Ambiguity and interpretation. The film's ending is deliberately ambiguous, leaving viewers with more questions than answers. Are the aliens truly malevolent, or are they merely observing Bryn's reactions to her trauma? What is their ultimate purpose? And how much of Bryn's experience is real versus imagined? This ambiguity invites multiple interpretations and discussions, making No One Will Save You more thought-provoking than many traditional horror films. Focus on survival horror in a limited setting. The film takes place primarily within Bryn's house and the surrounding woods, making it a contained survival horror experience. This limited setting amplifies the intensity of the situation, as Bryn has nowhere to escape and is forced to confront the alien threat head-on. The tight focus on a single character's fight for survival, rather than a broader alien invasion plot, makes the film feel more immediate and personal. No One Will Save You stands out from other horror films due to its minimalistic approach, psychological depth, and innovative use of aliens as both physical and symbolic threats. The film's focus on atmosphere, tension, and a deeply troubled protagonist gives it a unique voice in the genre, making it a memorable and unsettling experience for viewers. And that's all I have on No One Will Save You. I only have 6 more movies that I'll be sharing. What do you think they could be? How do you feel about No One Will Save You being on the list? Would it make it onto yours? How do you feel about alien movies in general? Me, I love them. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Or, as I've said before, I do indeed love discussing horror movies more in depth, so feel free to join the Wicked Encounters Discord group to listen to me blab on and on. If you like what I do and want to support me, maybe consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the little bell icon so you know when I post. If you want to support me in other ways, maybe check out my Patreon. Speaking of, I'd like to give a big thank you to my patrons Nikala and Beefalump. You guys are just, man, you're just awesome. Well, that's all I've got time for today. So remember, I'm Allie, this is Wicked Encounters, and I'll see you next time. Bye!